Very good evening to you. It's Friday night. It's after 7 o'clock, as you know, it always is. We're 5 minutes late at starting, as per usual. And you're tuned to the Friday night football pitch with myself, Cammy McDonald, Dennis Newell, and very shortly, well, maybe in the next 20 minutes or so, we'll also have Spurs Leeds United fan and host of many podcasts, Andy Burrows, joining us to talk about Spurs in the Europa League, talk about Leeds United as well. And no doubt Andy will have his say on several other things as well. But first and foremost, it's myself and Dennis. Dennis, good evening to you. How's the week been?
Yeah, good evening, Cammy. It's been good. Look at the weather. It's absolutely brilliant, you know.
Glorious, isn't it?
Continue. Yeah. I think though that we will soon be seeing hosepipe bans and everything coming up because it is really quite a drought down south, and they're the first to kick off. But I was looking at some news today, and St Andrews, as an example, hasn't had rain since the 18th of April. When would you ever have known that in Scotland, any town?
I know. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but it is lovely, I must admit, and it's looking like it's going to be a nice weekend and next week. So looking forward to it.
I wish the hell I could get out in the Dennis, you know that, but hey, never mind, it is what it is just now. But hey, maybe pretty soon, give it another week or so, and hopefully I'll be able to, by the time I get out in it, I'll be pissing for the heavens again as usual.
You just need to get yourself a chair and sit in it, Cammy. I've not been out in it much either, because I've been working from the house quite a bit this week, and it's always nice to see it. But you want to get a deck chair and lie out there, mate, and get the knee fixed. Bit of heat will do it, we're all good.
I need to get down there first of all, Dennis, and that's the problem, you know what I mean? So hey, that is what it is. Anyway, in football world, we saw the conclusion of, as I've said online, the three lower leagues north of the border and south of the border in terms of the regular season. You know, obviously Falkirk crowned champions. Congratulations to Falkirk. Congratulations to you as well. You picked them at the start of the season as being title winners. I picked Livingston, which is why last week I came up with a weird idea about if they finish level in points, Livingston should get the shout because they had a better head-to-head. It didn't matter anyway. Falkirk won the game. Livingston lost theirs at home to Partick Thistle. So congratulations to Falkirk. Ayr United make the playoffs with Thistle and obviously with Livingston. And there's been playoffs during the week as well. When we look at League Two, congratulations Arbroath. As we say, they've already concluded the league a number of weeks ago, which is a good job because since they won the league, Dennis, they've not won a game. You're one of the friends of the show. His Cove Rangers have made the playoffs, obviously alongside Airdrie Orient as well. And there's another couple of clubs there too. And then when we look further down the leagues, Dumbarton relegated. And as I say, I think Stinich Muir made the playoffs as well. So it's been a good week. It's been a busy week, and there's a playoff match tonight as well.
Yeah, and it was good also to see Airdrie, who have battled away all season, not ending up with a wooden spoon in 10th spot. Yeah. I'm not sure it's helped them, but the bottom line is certainly you would never have thought. I know obviously we'll call it default. Hamilton have had that points deduction and ended up they were bottom of the league, but I'm sure Airdrie, with the way their season went, will have some feelings of thinking, well, we didn't finish bottom, so that's something.
Yeah, well, when you consider sort of February, March time, we were all pretty much saying Airdrie are dead and buried, and they're going. Yeah, admittedly, the points deduction for Hamilton has helped. But at the point in time we were saying it, Airdrie were something like 19, 20 points behind second bottom. You know, so they have made up enough points there that they've kept themselves up anyway. You know, had Hamilton not had the points deduction, we'd be looking at Airdrie bottom, and I think Queen's Park would have finished second bottom, and Hamilton would have stayed up. We touched on it last week as well about Hamilton Accies moving to Cumbernauld. Just purely and simply because the fallout they've had with the owners. So you get the club that was in Cumbernauld 3 or 4 seasons ago now playing in Hamilton, and you've got the club in Hamilton who are now going to be playing in Cumbernauld next season. So that's something we can touch on later on. But as you say, fair play to Airdrie and a fantastic result midweek. A cracking performance from what I saw, the highlights as well against Edgemuir. And by all intents and purposes, Airdrie are through to the final, if you like, of the playoff competition to stay up. So no, fair play to them. Fair play to the clubs from North Lanarkshire. So well done to Airdrie.
Yeah, well, obviously, who was in free fall, we touched on it, and we look at that division, was Queen's Park. Yeah. After their shocking decision to sack the manager after the beaten Rangers. I still never get my head around. That's one of the, what you say, shocks of the season. No matter what level it is, you've got to look at that and still look back and say, oh, who's running that club that makes these decisions? Yeah. Absolutely unbelievable. And they've rightly earned their value where they should be. And, we did say that at the time. They deserve, with that kind of decision, to be ending up dropping down of the division, because they've done outstandingly well, something that masses amount of teams can't do, and that is not Rangers at a Scottish Cup. And they reward the manager by giving them the sack. So,
Callum Davison, obviously, I think Queen's Park are in. Obviously have to be indebted to the job that Davison did earlier in the season, because had it not been for that, their form since they knocked Rangers out the Scottish Cup has been absolutely nothing short of diabolical, and they would probably have been a relegation automatic had it not been, as I say, for the form that they had earlier in the season, which saw them in the verge of the playoffs, Dennis.
Yeah, it did. But just moving up the league a little bit to Morton in 6th spot, a friend of ours, and certainly I've known Andy, and we've done the radio programme for, 8, 9, 10 years in the trot on Friday night, him and myself and another. And Andy Millen was the assistant manager at Morton, and dispatched them into the gutter at the weekend 5 minutes after the match.
5 minutes after the game, it's reported. I think Greenock Telegraph was the first to report it. It was reported, obviously, as you say, that he was given a letter to attend a meeting the following day, and I think at that meeting, Andy was served the dismissal. A lot of they're saying it stems for the discussions that he had, or a fallout and suspension he had earlier on in the season. Against, I think they had a game against Wraith Rovers, and by all intents and purposes, it came from there. But I mean, Dougie Emery's had 3 seasons there as the Morton manager now, and I think I'm quite sure, knowing Andy as we do, and actually Dougie a wee bit as well, that Dougie would be the first to admit that the assistance of Andy Millen in his first managerial job has been vital to him. So it leaves me completely and utterly bamboozled that they decide to get rid of a man with all the experience in the world, that Andy has as a player, as a coach, as an under-17s, under-18s coach, reserve team coach. He's served at many managers also when the managers have been sacked, and he's stepped up to the plate and been temporary managers and things like that as well. So for a club like Morton, to get rid of somebody with his experience leaves me completely and utterly confused and astonished that that's what they want to do. But obviously Morton as a club, I think over the last 6 months, if you read what's in the press in terms of obviously transfer bans by FIFA and UEFA, I think there's a lot of discussions at board level as well. Obviously since Andy's left, I've been looking at some of the local papers, some of the reports in the local papers, and you just wonder what on earth's going wrong at that club. And maybe Andy's actually as well away for the club, and looking elsewhere, to progress his career or to further his next few years before obviously he retires.
I've deliberately not spoke to Andy since this happened. The reason being, I'm sure it'll be still quite raw with him. Yeah. Because when you look at that period of time that he's been at Morton, I'd have not got into the next division. But, I don't think Morton has got the financial clout to get into the top league. And basically, they have a good support. But it's like a lot of clubs, and without knowing the people, that they're mismanaged by directors. And I keep repeating this all the time. If some of these directors run their business the way they run a football club, they would be bankrupt. they don't understand the ins and outs. Some of them want to be big time billies. I know there's a lot of good directors out there, but a lot of them are in one massive ego trip that think they know better than the managers or the coaches. And I'm dumbfounded as to why the game still continues without them being exposed. Andy's deal will be swept under the carpet in a couple of weeks. So probably pay him off up to the end of the season. He'll not be able to say that much about it. And these guys will go away scot-free probably without the ins and outs coming out of it. Or, in real terms, his football knowledge and experience, I would reckon you couldn't buy. He's probably the most experienced coach in Scotland. Yep. Steve Clarke thought the world of him when he was down at Kilmarnock there with him. And that speaks volumes as well. So for Andy to be edged out the door, we'll say, is shocking. Right?
It's a crazy decision. As you say, some of these directors really want to take a good, long, hard look at themselves, for definite. As we talk about... Sorry, Dennis?
They're away in their wee world of their own.
Aye, but that's it, exactly.
It's not rubbing shoulders with, I was out with Tommy last week, and Tommy was this, and Tommy was that. He's just an ordinary guy. When are they going to realise that? They're ordinary human beings. And because of the talent as a footballer or a manager or a coach, don't get your ego trips because of your insecurities from these type of people.
That's it. Precisely. But anyways, we were talking there about one Andy getting edged out the door. Another one joined us. Andy, it wasn't you we were talking about. We are joined, as I say, by host of The Bunker and the Completed It podcast, Andy Burrows. Andy, obviously, Spurs, Leeds United fan. Good evening to you, mate. How's things?
I'm good, mate. What a week to be a Tottenham and Leeds fan. Yes, really good. I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me on as always, mate. Pleasure.
Nice to see you, Andy. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, Dennis. How are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm fine. Good. You'll have plenty to say. The last time you were on, it was doom and gloom with Tottenham.
I know. We're
probably still is to a degree, but you can't knock it.
No, you know what I mean? We've been relying on, I think TalkSport were talking about it today. We've been relying on this run since probably December, January time. We knew that the league was gone and we weren't making the Champions League, and the whole debate now started of how can the team finish 15th, 16th in the Premier League and be in the Champions League. But hey, look, we don't make the rules, and we're in a final, and let's see what we can do. You know what Spurs are like in finals, so I don't want to get my hopes up too much, because last time that was the Champions League final, and albeit against Liverpool. But no, look, we're there now. We've got a chance. We played really well over the two legs. I thought we played well yesterday. We done what we had to do. It wasn't a typical Spurs performance, but we're in the final, boys. So let's chat about it with you.
Yeah,
and that final against Manchester United. And as you say, you're looking at two sides who this season in your Premiership have been nothing short of disastrous. It's been a shocking season as far as both clubs are concerned in the league. Domestically, neither of them have shown. But in the semi-finals, both clubs, as you say, we spoke at the start of the week. You even as 3-1 up, you were kind of unsure as to whether you'd Spurs it or not. But the form of both clubs in the semi-final has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, look, our European form's pretty much going to try and save our season. But like you said, the semi-finals, us and United, I thought United would have had a tougher game. I saw the highlights of the United game. The aggregate score didn't do it justice, really. I mean, how they only conceded one last night. I was watching the Tottenham game, but my friend Dave had the Man United game on the iPad in front of me, because I was down the pub and they weren't showing the Man United game, so he got his iPad out, put that on. It is what it is. I mean, a lot of people moaning about the way that we've got there and the competition. They should have had the Champions League teams dropping it. I mean, what do you want? You have 1 year, you moan that the Champions League teams do drop into the Europa, and then this year people are like, well, it shouldn't be Spurs and Man United. It's like, well, we don't make the rules. No one's you're telling me that the team that finishes fourth in the Premier League are going to go, actually, do you know what? We're not really champions. We won't go in the Champions League this year. Put us in the Europa. The team that finished fifth, I think this year, I think there's going to be 5. Well, are we going to? I'm guessing we're going to have 6 teams in the Champions League now.
Potentially, you could have. That's the thing. And I mean, which is absolutely crazy, But when you consider a number of seasons ago, you had the big argument as to, I think it was Liverpool, when they they finished fifth as to whether they would get in, because you had the Champions League winners that season as well, or something like that, you know. So when you consider there's no upwards number now on how many sides a country can get into the Champions League, you know.
Yeah.
2 sides in the Europa League, Andy, I think you're due it. I'll be honest with you, mate. At the end of the day, 2 English sides into that Europa League final, I think you're due it, you know. And for all the shouting about clubs should drop out and whatever else, where did PSG finish in the Champions League stage of the Champions League? You know, they're only in by default. You know, they won their playoff place. You know, people tend to forget that now, that the favourites finish well down that league.
Yeah, but the Champions League hasn't been champions for God knows how many years now. You know, I remember, was it the Cup Winners' Cup, when you had to finish first in your division? So you'd have, I don't know, Liverpool, Glasgow Rangers, you'd have Barcelona. The competition was over a lot quicker because you just had the champions. And then now you fast forward to 2025 when you've got teams that are finishing 5th in the Premier League. You've got the Club World Cup. You've got, you know, Tottenham, we haven't made these rules, and everyone's saying, oh, well, you don't deserve to be in the Champions League. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, then we'll drop out. You know, it's just, we'll say no. It's ridiculous. You know, it's the year Liverpool won the Champions League. I think they finished 6th in the Premier League, and they snuck in the back door, had to go through the qualifiers, and you know, they've had one of the greatest finals of all time against Milan. But that year, I think they finished 5th, 4th, something like that. They finished like way down in the Premier League. Or they might have won. It might have been the year, I think it was the year they won the Europa League. Yeah. And that's got them into the Champions League. And they went on and won it. So they'd had back-to-back European victories. But everyone seems to forget that they got in via the Europa League, finishing 6th, 7th in the Premier League. All right, it wasn't as low down as Tottenham and Man United. But we don't make the rules. We're just, you know, we're just going to do what we can, and if hopefully we do get in the Champions League, it'll be a catalyst for us, because you know, if we somehow do get in the Champions League, I'm still sacking Postecoglou. By the way, I'd sack him the night we won it. I'd let him get his winner's medal and maybe do the parade and then sack him.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask, but you know, it's strange there. I have the leagues, and I had to actually scroll down the league to find Tottenham and Man United. Instead, it being in the top section of the screen. So, you know, that never happens. But if you look at the 2 that have achieved the final placings in the Europa League, I think they're sitting next to each other in the Premiership. They have had a horrendous season in terms of the domestic side of it, and they've managed to get to the final. And one of my colleagues who's on next week, he's actually a Tottenham supporter, and we were talking about it today. And basically, I'm thinking this will be a great final. And of course, the other lad, he's a Man United fan, and we all agreed that this could be an excellent final because of the standing of the 2 clubs. There've been a hit or a miss. It didn't surprise me with Man United's result though, because having watched Rangers play against the opposition, I thought they were tipped. Well, we were tipped to be maybe potentially winning that. And then when I watched them against Rangers, I thought, who's saying this? Because Rangers didn't get exactly turned over with them. No. But it just shows you how poor they are when Manchester really done a job in them. And it also tells you how poor Rangers are as well. But at the same time, Man United deserve to be there along with Tottenham. There's absolutely no question of doubt. And the great thing about this season has been that from a Scottish point of view, we can see potentially, if it's Celtic and Rangers again being first or second in the league, then we can see them being into April, and potentially, if they really strike it lucky, they could be in a Europa League situation whereas Man United and Tottenham are come May. So the new league structure for me has been absolutely magnificent. And it doesn't matter to me how many teams you want to plough into in the Premiership. The teams there are good enough to be playing in Europe. So for me, you could put 7, you can put 8 in. I don't care, because you'll always get that extra quality. What I don't want to see is we go to Norway and we take its top 8. Then you've got a problem. You know, so if it's quality, I'm all for it. If it's diluting the tournament because you've got Mickey Mouse teams in, then I'm no for it. And even if you looked at Scotland, if it was only 2, I'd take 2, because we have had Aberdeens and Hearts, etc., even Kilmarnock in there, and they've not really shown, you know, they're punching above their weight when they get into these tournaments. But Celtic and Rangers, yes, tighten it up a wee bit. They can maybe get to a further stage along the road. But as the final comes along, yes, I think it's going to be a good one. Yeah. And you then touched on, Andy, which was going to be my next question after this. You still think the manager has not done enough if he managed to win that cup?
I was talking about this again. My friend that I work with all day, every day, he's a Tottenham fan as well. And he was of the opinion, he's like, look, Daniel Levy would have said to him at the start of the season, your objective is to get us in the Champions League and win a trophy. Technically, he's going to hope he might do it.
Yeah.
The way we might be going about it, my only issue is, do I trust Postecoglou to take us into the Champions League? Now, you might say, well, let's give him some time. It's like, okay, so how long do we realistically give it next season? Do we start off? Do we give him all this bundle of money in the summer and let him spend it, and then we get 9-10 games into the new Premier League season and we've lost 7, for argument's sake? Then you're kind of like up shit creek without a paddle, because you can't give the new manager any more money because you might have just given Postecoglou God knows how much money. Or do you say, look, thanks very much, you have the parade, and if we touch wood, we do win it. You have the parade, you say thanks very much, but we're going in a different direction. And then I think they're looking at the guy from Bournemouth. There's a few guys that they're looking at. He's kind of put himself in a win-win situation now, really. He either wins the Europa League and keeps his job, or he wins the Europa League and goes away with a humongous payout from Tottenham. Yeah. So, and probably with a half decent-ish reputation, he'll get another job on the back of this.
Yeah.
Someone, I can't see him going back to like Celtic or something like that. But mind you, Brendan Rodgers is one of the guys linked with us. I know he said he's committed, he's 1,000,000,000%. I saw that interview where he said he's going to stay at Celtic. But if the Premier League come knocking, you're not.
That before.
Yeah, I've heard it in all walks of life. And if it's football, NFL, any sport you play, I never believe anything that anyone ever says in sport, really. So, yeah, I mean, look, me personally, I think the Premier League is where you're judged. I don't think he's done well enough in the Premier League. I don't, like I said to you guys when I was last on, he's not adaptable. I think you have to be adaptable now in the Premier League as a manager. Last night was probably the first time where I thought he's adapted here. We played boring football. We kind of tried to play counter-attacking football. We just bored the pants off everyone last night. It wasn't the greatest game, and we got 2 goals. Yeah. If he'd put that ideology into some Premier League games where I think we're the highest ranked team to lose from winning positions. So if you look at the games where we've been leading 2-0, or you look at Chelsea when we were 2-3 and up, and you think, right, just shut the door. Just play bore everyone. No Tottenham fan's going to come home going, oh, that second half was boring if we won 3-2, 3-1, So that's where, if he can do that, maybe. But do I trust him with a bucket load of cash in the summer? No.
The thing is, so that when you talk about new faces coming, you've got to look at it realistically and say the manager can't nowadays be fully responsible for who has been signed. Because in some cases, you just need to look at Chelsea. The coaches and managers don't know until they've arrived through the door.
Yeah, the director of football's coming back as well. We've got our old director of football. His band's up. He's apparently TalkSport was saying today it's done. He's back. He'll be with us at the start of next season.
Well, if that's a good thing, then you've got to look at the credentials of the manager as a manager, managing the players, getting the best out of them. Because you just need to look at Man City. Whenever Haaland was given an extension of his contract, Pep sat there in the television and just turned around and said, oh, that's good. Never knew about that. So there's an element there where they don't even really need to be good coaches, the managers nowadays, because the players that are bringing in should be coached, should understand. Yep. You're not having, as I've repeated on here before, then management have had to take a goalkeeper aside and try and get him to kick the ball properly to get the ball over the halfway line in the wind. That'd be unthinkable for that kind of level of football. So the players coming in at the top flight are well coached. What they have to do is get the best out of them. Some of the things that Man United have not done, they've shipped players out rather than get the best out of them. And that's what a good manager in my eyes is about nowadays. Being the social worker, being the probation officer, being the mother, being the father, and obviously you've got to manage that properly. Now, if he can get the players at his disposal, I think personally there's still scope for him but it has to be on the grounds that if he doesn't hit the ground running, then it's short term.
Yeah, I mean, it happened to Postecoglou, didn't it? We lost the Champions League final, and then I think we lost the first, 8 out of our 12 games. We lost. I was at the game. He got sacked. Actually, we were at home to Newcastle. I remember it was terrible weather, bad day. We got hammered by Newcastle, and I think by the time I'd got back to my car, there was whisperings that he'd been sacked, and it was just like, So it happened with Postecoglou. So that's my own with Pochettino. Sorry, and there's even talk of him turning down all that America money and going, "I'll come back." Bearing in mind it's a World Cup year now, and he's the manager of the United States. If I was a betting man, I've been known to have the odd flutter. I'd put some serious cash on him being our next manager.
Mm-hmm. Well, it may well happen because we just finished talking about directors in football, and you've just seen it in Hearts as well. Hearts put their manager down the road after 6 months.
Yeah.
Because it really wasn't good enough to the point that it didn't make the cut in Scotland in the Premier League or the top 6. And obviously Hibs embarrassed them a little bit by leapfrogging them and everything that they've done. So, 6 months, I question what you're meant to do at a top level club when you have limited resources. Now, again, your man at Tottenham, how many injuries has he had? And without having any sentiment in it, you could say, his time's up. But I think you've got to really look at it and say, if he wins that cup, you've got a split within the supporters.
Oh, 100%. Look, if he stays, am I going to throw my toys out the pram? No, I just don't want to be in a situation in end of September when we're, the season's well up. And I don't want you. I imagine I'm sitting there chatting to you, going, "Oh, Andy, you've lost 14 out of 15 games." You know what I mean? Something stupid like that, and you're like, "We should have got rid of him, but we're done now." Because if you give him the transfer window, then he has to stay. You can't give him the transfer window and then get rid of him. Because
again, I repeat, you need that director of football to be the main player on this, so that the manager doesn't end up with full responsibility, other than the fact that his shape hasn't changed to make it look better than it was the year before, with better players that's been identified for him.
I think that's where the injury argument, Dennis, goes out the window. When you talk about shape and when you talk about style of play, what Andy's saying is obviously irrespective of the injuries, his style of play hasn't adapted. Now whether that's because he's restricted with the injuries or not, I don't know. But if Postecoglou hasn't adapted his style of play in terms of who they're playing, that's no down to the amount of injuries he's had. That's down to an inability to identify what needs to be done in games or, tactical awareness or whatever. And I think that's where your argument is, Andy, that, is it time that just basically come the end of the season, you turn around and say, right, okay, enough's enough. You've won us a cup. Thanks very much. We'll show you the door. And I'm quite sure Leicester West had done the same with Ranieri the season he won the Premier League as well.
Yeah, look what happened there. Exactly. So, if it is his time, it's his time. But I genuinely think that we'll get Pochettino back. I think he'll turn his.
I think that'd be a good shout for you.
I think he'll turn. I've got a feeling he'll turn his back on a shitload of money, like serious money. His family is still in London. He still lives. Technically, he's got a place in London. I know he's obviously over in the States a lot because he's their coach, but they've still got enough time. What we now May. There's still the World Cup's this time next year, nearly next June, isn't it? So they've got a year to get someone, and I've got a funny feeling that he'll be our next manager.
Well, again, before Postecoglou got the job, that was sort of people, again, Tottenham supporters, that basically were saying that's who they wanted.
Yeah, Daniel Levy apparently had a chat with him about it, but he just said, no, it's too early to bring you back. It's like, mate,
Levy wouldn't spend a penny with it, that he didn't need to, Andy. That's the thing,
He's one of the big problems, mate. I mean, we can talk about managers and players till the cows come home. Why that man's still there? Don't get me wrong, he runs it as a business. Look at the boxing that was there 2 weeks ago. You've got Beyonce coming up again next year. You've got all these bands coming up. You've got God knows what. You've got the NFL. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. You've got 2 games of the NFL. You've got the Formula One thing underneath the stadium now. It's the indoor Formula One track. As a business, if he was your CEO at any of our companies that we work for, you'd be thinking this is amazing because your bonuses would be great, everything. But from a purely football standpoint, us as football fans,
but
we don't. That's where you need to find balance. You need to find balance. Is as we were talking about just before you come on here, was the fact that I said that if half the directors in football run their businesses the way they did football clubs, they'd be bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he's gone to the other extreme. He's running it fully as a business at football and being very successful at that, but at the expense of the football side.
Yeah.
And that's the fine balance you've got to get.
How does he want his career to be seen? Does he want to retire, and whenever, God knows when he retires, does he want to be known as a successful businessman, or does he want to be known as the guy that won Tottenham the FA Cup, the Champions League, the Premier League? It's probably going to be the first one. It's going to want to be. He'll
100%.
Be like,
yeah.
He won't care. He won't care that he hasn't won a Premier League. He won't care that we lost the Champions League final. He probably wouldn't if we lost on the 21st of May. Oh, well, we made a bit more money. Okay. You know what I mean? It's all he's thinking about. Reinvesting that into the business.
100%.
When he sits down and retires, or when he's sitting on his yacht, he's not. I don't think he'll generally be distraught, because if he was, he would have done something by now in all these years. And I can't stand the guy. Probably best I don't talk about him. I'll get really angry.
Well, listen, I'll get you smiling again. Obviously, before we touch on Leeds United, as you say, it's been a great week in terms of what Spurs and Leeds have done. But there's a tiny matter of the fact that Arsenal get knocked out as well. So you've had a cracking week, mate.
Look, Cammy, European finals aren't for everyone, my friend. They're not for everyone. We can't all be there. And it was a great week. All my Arsenal mates, this is it. We're going to win it. We've never lost in France when we go there and play. I'm thinking, wow, you guys really haven't got a clue. To see them lose was incredible, because I've got a lot of Arsenal mates down here, and I mean a lot. And to shut them up, the amount of texts and tweets and stuff I get about Tottenham throughout the years. So I had my moment in the sun. Tottenham will probably ruin it for me on May 21st, but I've sent every meme, every joke, everything you can think of. I've got them. And I'll have my week or 2 weeks in the sunshine until we probably get battered by Man United, and then I'll have to crawl back under my rock again and pretend my phone's broke. But the two best teams are in the final. For Arteta to come out and say, "Oh, the best team we played," how can you've just lost in the semi-final? That's disrespectful to the PSG. That's disrespectful to the competition, and it sums them two Bobler up. They just think they're a lot better than. I think I'll try and find it. I got a stat the other day. I don't know if I sent it to you, Cammy. I might have tweeted it out.
I don't think you did, Andy.
The amount of stick that they give us. So here, I've got it here. 21 years without a title. 33
You did. You posted that. I've seen it. Yeah.
33 years without a Carabao Cup. No Champions Leagues, no Europas, no Super Cups, no Club World Cup, and never defended a Premier League title. And it says their fan base say that we're all deluded. Yeah. They're meant to be this big club. They haven't won a trophy in 21 years, like a title. They've won the FA Cup. Fair play. Look, I'd switch that and I give them that. But for the amount of stick they give us, I'm expecting them to be primetime Man City, and they bottle it more than ever. Honestly,
They've punched above their weight all season.
Yeah,
that's my view. I have said from day one, Sterling, Havertz, and Trotter. 3 of them are meant to be forwards. Now, Trossard has actually chipped in with a few goals in the last month. But to be perfectly honest, they have gone through the season without a centre forward.
Mm-hmm. You forget Jesus as well, Dennis.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, if you expect to get to the Champions League final without an out-and-out centre forward scoring, and somebody might say, well, here's PSG. They have got finishers in all departments. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is, Arsenal don't. And it's as if there's a cockiness about them that says, or the manager that thinks he's arrived. He's not arrived. He's fallen at almost the last hurdle, when if he'd identified that he could have got rid of Havertz ages ago and replaced him with a centre forward that will finish for him, he might have got himself to the final. But you're not going to do that when you're 3 men down in relation to what your firepower is up front. And that's been my view with Arsenal all the time. And, it hasn't surprised me that they didn't get to the final. In fact, I'm very surprised they even got to the quarterfinal.
They got the semi, the semis. And
they should have gone, they should have, when they're putting in derogatory bids for Ollie Watkins and things like that, putting a real bid, you might have got him with the end of the season he's had. He's been sitting on the bench. So, or do you go and get, what's his name that went out to Saudi Arabia? Troy... What's the
boys at Brentford?
Ivan Toney.
Yeah, Tony,
you go and try and get him out of his contract in the summer, and try and get someone like him, or the guy that went from the other guy, the young lad that went from Villa out to Saudi Arabia.
Even at that, Andy, I don't think
Duran,
yeah.
You look at the likes of what PSG have got, and the rest of the teams that have lined up in the Champions League for the last month or so. There's one player that sticks out in the forward line every team. Arsenal didn't have that.
Yeah. No.
And that's where you need to go. No, somebody that's maybe going to step up from another team, Brentford or whatever else. It doesn't always work. You need somebody that is proven, tested, and get them in there. And that is where you look at always your spine of your team. Goalkeeper, centre half, midfield, and forward. And then you can work around about it with players that are maybe not just as good. But you need that spine to be world class. Otherwise, you won't get to the next stage.
Yeah. Or you look at, Andy, you're saying about derisory comments by Arteta saying that the best sides aren't there. Barcelona didn't make it. They're a damn sight better than what Arsenal have been. And what a semi-final that was. Incredible. Let's be fair. Dennis, I couldn't have been off work at any better time to see that game, because the game has been absolutely outstanding, and I'm glad I caught both legs. Because that's as
good a game. Both legs. Are you talking about your own both legs?
Right, okay, you'll leave the right one out of this, but
he's at a certain age.
Good a game. Don't say any. Come on, you stop mentioning my knee as well, Burrows. Come on. But no, what a semi-final that was. Two outstanding ties. And again, you're talking about strikers. Martinez, the Inter Milan striker. Lautaro Martino, outstanding, and just across the board, fantastic ties, fantastic individual players, but both sides playing as a team as well, and it was an outstanding tie to watch, absolutely fantastic entertainment. And I think somebody else said it as well, it made them fall back in love with football. I enjoyed that immensely, I enjoyed the games absolutely immensely. I thought they were outstanding.
I agree, mate. I agree.
Yeah, it was top matches, and I think we have. And as we get to the end, obviously, of the season, it's been a good season. And I think, and I repeat again, the way the Champions League has been brought together and the way Europa League has been a breath of fresh air, because normally you find that we get these people in their ivory towers, like we've got it in Scotland, not even prepared to look at changing the league structure. Well, I'm glad they're dealing with UEFA, because we wouldn't have the luxury of what we're watching just now. We'd have the same mundane thing that doesn't upset the apple cart by changing the league structure. Why? Why not? That's where they should be taking a page out of their book of the people that's reorganised the Champions League and Europe in general, and saying, right, if they can do that, look how refreshing it was this year. The amount of games and how it's been attractive to the Scottish teams that were in it and the revenue we got from it. Why can we not do that with our own domestic league to some degree? So it has been a breath of fresh air for me to watch the way the European leagues have been almost dismantled, and then just playing it as it was. And I'll tell you what, you went into the wire, you never knew the teams that were actually going to just qualify automatically.
We are taking a leaf out of the Champions League book, Dennis. Have you not seen the format for the Challenge Cup next season? We are taking a leaf out of their book. Look that one up on YouTube, mate. That's crazy. That'll make you yearn for Champions League stuff again, I'll tell you. But Andy as well, obviously, we brought down the curtain on the Scottish lower leagues before you came on. It's not every year you're going to celebrate a championship winning side, and Leeds United and Burnley, to their credit as well, have produced an absolutely outstanding championship this season. The two teams have been going neck and neck, head to head, and it turns out, obviously, on goal difference, Leeds United go ahead and win the championship. You must be delighted.
Yeah, it's great. Everyone that knows me knows that Leeds are kind of my second team. I know you shouldn't have a second team, but I grew up at Ellen Road and stuff like that with my dad and everything like. So, Leeds will always be really close to my heart. To see them back in the Premier League where they belong, and like you say, to get 100 points again, that's, 200
Yep.
points, first and second in the league is incredible. So yeah, they're back to where they belong, Leeds. Let's just hope they can stay there. Obviously now, you'll know this, Cammy, being an NFL fan, with the 49ers now investing heavily into Leeds United. They've got a great chance of staying in the Premier League. But yeah, I've already got a couple of my Leeds friends are like, "You coming to Tottenham, Leeds?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's the only time I want Leeds to lose any game they play is when I'll go to Ellen Road." But yeah, they're a huge club, absolutely huge club. To see them back in the Premiership is unbelievable. And Burnley as well. I think Burnley will go straight back down. I don't think they'll be good enough. I think Leeds. If you look, the only problem is the last 3 seasons, all the 3 teams that have come up went straight back down.
Come down, yeah. I think if anybody's going to stay up, it's going to be Leeds, because you say that the investment, the infrastructure, and everything is already there. You know, and I mean, you can see the infrastructure's there at Burnley as well. You know, because they're making themselves a yo-yo team. But I think Leeds United, out of the 9 sides that have gone up in the last 3 seasons, are probably the ones with the greatest chance of staying up. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think JJ Watt's part of Burnley, isn't he? The old
NFL player? He is. Yeah,
he invests in them, so you never know. Look, you never know. But I think the gulf now between, you only got to look at the Premier League now, and you know, I think it's brilliant that you've got Nottingham Forest, Fulham, Bournemouth, all up there. You know, Nottingham Forest potentially could still be in the Champions League next year. I think that's incredible. So the gap is getting bigger. I mean, if Leeds can just stay up for one season, even if they finish a point above the relegation zone, stay up, and then build. It's how Bournemouth originally done it. It's how Fulham originally done it. It's how Leicester done it. And then, you know, obviously we know what's happened to Leicester now, but they had a chance, and it's unfortunate what happened to their owner, etc., etc. But Leeds have probably, I'm not just saying this because I'm kind of a Leeds fan, but Leeds have probably got the best chance out of all the everyone that's come up recently to stay up. I mean, Sheffield United should join them. Especially, you know, obviously being 3-0 up after yesterday's first leg. I'd like to see Coventry come up with Leeds personally. I like Coventry. Obviously, Peter Chilton, our good mate, Washington, and Jay, good. Yeah, so they're all good. They're massive Coventry fans. So I'd like to see Coventry in the league. But yeah, as for Leeds, mate, I think they'll be able to hold their own. I think the 49ers are really going to back them. I saw an interview the other day with the ex-chairman, last time Leeds were in the Premier League, and he outlined all the mistakes they made. And he said they went for a lot of experienced Premier League players, but they were experienced, but they weren't quality. It's a bit like coming up and signing. It's a bit like if they signed Jamie Vardy now. Yeah, he's been in the Premier League and he's been there, he's done it, he's got a winner's medal, etc., etc. Is he really the answer for Leeds United? You might as well keep Bamford. So if you're looking at that kind of ilk player, which they might do, I don't know. Jamie Vardy said he wants to stay in the Premier League. I can maybe see him going to a Burnley or something like that. No disrespect.
Vardy's went to Wrexham.
Sheffield United. Yeah, I heard that, but apparently he said he doesn't want to play in the Championship. I'm like, whoa, I don't know. They're going to offer him. Could you imagine if Wrexham went back to back again and got in the Premier League?
Yeah.
You know,
I just got a funny feeling when you're talking about Vardy, he'll be at Wrexham. You know, just something tells me.
I reckon.
That.
I've just heard he doesn't want to play in the Championship.
But do you really see a Premiership side taking a chance on him? You know, I mean, what are you going to get out of him? 6 goals?
Yeah.
You know, in the Premier League, really, you know. So I think for his career and everything else, for getting another couple of seasons out of him, he'd be better dropping down, you know, looking at a Wrexham or looking at something like that, you know.
He can come and play for Dunstable. He can come play for Dunstable if he wants.
I don't think you can afford the money, Andy.
Yeah, no.
Wherever Vardy goes, it's going to boil down to the amount of chances it's created for him. And that, like most centre forwards, means that you need service. And sometimes, although you go further down the leagues, the harder it becomes for them and the poorer they actually play. Whereas when we talk, and I'm not saying this is something, but you look at it, and I've rattled my gums there about Arsenal having nobody up front. Now, for the chances that Arsenal's created throughout the year, I'm sure Vardy would have had a better conversion rate than any of the 3 that I've mentioned that didn't do a job. Yeah. Because they're at the top flight, right? Mm-hmm. The team he was playing with this year was a non-event. And he did score goals, and I still rate the guy. The legs do go, but until it's proven that he's missing chance after chance in a game, then I still think he's quality.
I reckon he could do like a Jermaine Defoe, come to Glasgow Rangers, something like that, and Defoe done it.
Yeah.
I think, I could see him. If we could be tempted anywhere, and I always have this argument with people. I'm like, if teams like, there's a certain time in your career when certain teams come knocking. Trent Alexander's the perfect example. Real Madrid have come in for him at the right time. You're going to go.
Yeah.
There's always certain teams at certain stages of your career you're going to want to go to, and I don't say this disrespectfully. If Glasgow Rangers come knocking, and let's not beat around the bush, they're one of the biggest clubs in the world, supporter-wise, especially as well. Everywhere you go in the world, Glasgow Rangers and so.
But he would need to pay them. Vardy would need to give Rangers money to play. That's the problem you've got.
Yeah, they couldn't afford it.
Seriously, I know they're looking at injection and a new partnership with the American football side of it. But when you're
looking guy that owns Leeds United is going to take over Glasgow Rangers, isn't he? Yeah, the 49ers guy.
What you're looking at there is they won't be able to throw big bucks at this early doors, because they'll only get their fingers burnt unless they see results coming with the players that are signed. So I would imagine when you look at Celtic, who've got nothing as a centre forward, and I mean nothing. The boy's poor, it's up there. Ida, and to be honest, Celtic's in desperate need of a centre forward. That would be a good shout, and they could probably give Vardy the opportunity.
No sell-on value, Dennis. No sell-on value. That's the only way around it. The only thing Celtic would be interested in is sell-on value.
You're spot on with that. But if you look at it as a business acquisition to get in the Champions League, then there's potential there to say, well, Ida have spent £9 million on it. I mean, seriously, it's just murder. And you've got to look at it and say, do you want success? Because he'll not be a sell-on. You'll be lucky if you get £3 million for that boy, then. He'll be in the wings when Celtic get a replacement for him, and you might get nothing for him. So that's money in the toilet, and that's bad buying. And I've said this before, there's a lot of bad business gets done at Parkhead, and we never see or hear of it because it's swept under the carpet, because Celtic's success in the domestic side of things, it doesn't count when they sign a failure. They seem to just roll along, and then it's flagged up when a good player's there, we'll punt him and we'll get money for him. But just going back to the issue, something like Celtic for Jamie Vardy would be a perfect signing for Brendan Rodgers. Perfect signing. And I mean, you must know him fairly well.
Yeah, from his time at Leicester.
Yeah. So, he took Schmeichel there. He's delighted and happy with the club. So if for me, it's just me. If you're looking there, if it couldn't be Rangers and it's Celtic, doesn't matter. I would like to see the boys' talent there in Scotland. Yeah,
no, I agree, Matt. I think, again, it's wages, and will Jamie Vardy's ego? I mean, he'd be a big fish, and I don't mean this in a not a small pond, because it's Celtic and Rangers, but compared to what he's been used to in the Premier League and obviously playing for England and stuff like that. I think Celtic would be a good fit. I'm just saying Rangers because I love Glasgow Rangers, but I mean, it'd be interesting. I think, the Wrexham, I thought, I don't know if I'd see him. That'd be good. Imagine if he did go to Wrexham, they'd have a great shout of getting out the Championship. If they get out the Championship, they'll make a movie about them. Like, I know it sounds weird because of their owners, but I know they've got the TV show. But that going from non-league to the Premier League will probably be the greatest achievement in football history ever.
Well, his wife could get a leading part in it then, couldn't she?
Oh, Jesus, oh my God.
Yeah. Aye, yes.
Anyway,
let's say the better, the better.
Moving on from Leeds and Burnley.
You can get a leading partner.
Yeah, but brilliant for Leeds. So it'll be interesting.
Amazing.
I had a friend that played with Leeds United when David Batty and a few others, and I got to know quite a few of the Leeds players. If you go back to
that's my era. Yeah, that's my era. I was good. David Batty, Mel Sterling, Tony Dorigo, the Wallace brothers, Danny, and
What's the older guy? McDonald at fullback?
Alan McDonald?
No.
McDonald. What, right back?
Yeah.
McDonald.
Good lad.
I grew up in Mel Sterling was the main right back when I was there.
I say Sterling was decent. Again, another Rangers player. But I mean, we'll look across the leagues, Andy, down there. Let's mention American football. It's been no bad for clubs owned by American football sides. You get Birmingham City with Tom Brady, Leeds United, and as you say, Burnley as well. So So our other sport is definitely having a massive influence on what's happening down south in terms of promotion this season.
Oh, dude! I mean, the NFL I think they've finally. It seems to be like an investment thing now for people coming from American football to the Premier League, and now a little bit in Scotland. The Glasgow Rangers, obviously, the San Francisco 49ers are going to plough God knows how much money into Glasgow Rangers over the next X amount of years, and Leeds. But yeah, it seems to be something with former NFL owners or NFL players now. I think Wrexham have opened the door for everyone. I think they've seen what Wrexham have done, and they've gone, hang on a minute, I want a little bit of this. I mean, the guy that played Creed owns half of Bournemouth.
Right, okay.
So his name's guy I should know. I host a bloody movie podcast, but yeah, he owns half of Bournemouth now. He's part of that investment group. So obviously, yeah, like you say, you've got Tom Brady, you've got, and it's all purely down to Wrexham. I mean, I just hope, my only issue is I hope they're in it for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. I hope it's not one of them in 3 or 4 years they up sticks. And you've seen it at football clubs historically. You've seen it at your clubs. You've seen it at my club. Any level of football. And I can only when I was playing non-league football in 1998-99, Hornchurch had been taken over by this multi-millionaire, right? She multi-millionaire. In a span of a week, he signed Dimitri Karin in goal. He had, I think it was the likes of John Spencer up front, the old Chelsea forward. He had all the old Chelsea boys down there playing. That lasted 3 months. He got bored, pulled the money, and Hornchurch, they went bust. 2 seasons later, they were gone. And so that's I know that's on a non-league scale, but my only issue is that, we'll use Glasgow Rangers as an example because we know historically the issues that have been up in Scotland with football teams and ownerships and stuff like that. And everyone's always saying, well, there's only 2 teams and they never do well in Europe. Well, now they might have a small chance. I know you've got the financial fair play and everything like that. It's the same as for you guys as it is for us. But you've now got a small chance because let's not beat around the bush. The people that are owning Leeds and Glasgow Rangers now are mega rich.
Yeah, they're not sure about it.
They're not Saudi rich, but like Dennis says, you've maybe got to build a little something. All you need is a gem. All you need is one player. You need a Paul Gascoigne to come up there. You need a Jermaine Defoe. You need something like that. You need a Chris Sutton when he went to Celtic all them years ago. You need to find a Henrik Larsson. You need to find one person that you can go, right, here, mate, here's a shed ton of money. We're really going to gamble on you. Like then it might be Jamie Vardy. If Celtic go to Jamie Vardy, here's this money, but we're going to pretty much not build Celtic around you. We're going to build the league around you. You're going to be the poster boy.
Yeah, you bring it up there, Andy.
My only issue is I hope these American owners and these people from the NFL. Do you know what?
Yeah,
I think the internet of the hamsters.
I think when you look at that, though, you need the right person who's identifying these particular players. And I think that's one of Rangers' problems in the last 3 or 4 years. They have not identified the right person and they have spent reasonable money on even that squad they've got at this moment in time. There's been reasonable money that would have been able to compete against Celtic. And they have bought badly. And you've got to look at the people that were allowed to go out and buy these players. You can batter the manager all day long. I don't think that was another bad appointment by the club. But the identification of players is so crucial nowadays that it can make or break you. So that one individual generally has to be the best that you can source. That's even more important than your centre forward because he's got to bring a whole team to the party. And I think that there's not enough identification of who these people are to see what their background is. I mean, if you look at Ross Wilson as an example, Ross Wilson, when he started, was running John Hughes about as his taxi driver at Falkirk and volunteered to help the club. They then, by luck or hook or by crook, because I knew Ross, I'd been out for a few beers with him, and he was a nice lad. But the thing was, I used to look at him and go, how are you even climbing this ladder? And because of Van Dijk, he took to Southampton when he was down there, director of football. That made him. And his platform just rocketed. And then you look at it and I go, well, I knew he wasn't going to do much at Rangers. but how many other people actually knew him to say that that was the Messiah? Because it was a million miles away from it. As much as he's a nice guy, definitely not in the zone that Rangers were needing to bring in players. And it's biting them big time just now. And he's part of that. So there's where I go back to it. The clubs have got to make sure that the director of football, if we call them that, or the people that are identifying players, have really got to be at the top of their game and not just talk a good game. They've got to know a good player inside out. That when you give it to me, if I'm the manager, I can rely on you, Cammy. That boy is worth his weight in gold. And that's what I need from that director of football. And unfortunately, it's not the case. I think half of them are hoodwinked by agents nowadays. And some of them don't understand the game well enough.
And I think that's where the guys who run the 49ers are going to come in to their own at Rangers, because they've got experience in the sports world in terms of if they can make a success of a club in the NFL, Andy, as the 49ers have been over the last number of years, translate that into what they've done at Leeds United. If that can get into what they're doing at Ibrox as well, if they get involved in Rangers with any kind of strength, you know, and that we know they're going to, that's where I think the difference for Rangers will be, that it's not going to be a fly-by-night or, you know, coming in there to take over. They're going to put the right infrastructure in place. They're going to make sure that the right bodies are in place. And if they need to tear things down, first of all, they'll do that. Because let's be honest, we've seen that in the NFL, you know, where they'll tear something down, first of all, they'll rebuild it from the bottom up. And that's what will happen, Dennis.
That's the thing I would ask you to, because I know nothing about American football. What can American football ownership and experience bring, not just to Scotland, but to soccer in general, that when you look at Wrexham, that was movie stars, right? We're not talking about that. So I'm talking about your 49ers and even if your own lot get involved with, what are they bringing to the game that we don't have or we don't see?
It's a very good question.
Dennis.
Yeah, experience in sport. I mean, for me, I've said this for a
while.
Liverpool. Yeah, I mean, you've got exactly. Liverpool, great example. Obviously, the owners of the NFL, Boston Red Sox. Football could learn so much from the NFL. I've said this for a few years now. If you really want to make, and again, I always use Scotland as an example because I'm on with you guys. If you really, really want to make football fair, have a salary cap.
Yeah,
have a salary
100%.
Because the NFL, and everyone says, "Well, we're not the NFL." Have you? And well, we won't make as much money. Do you know how much money the NFL makes each? Cammy, you'll know this. How much money the National Football League makes, and their players are all on. It's a salary cap. So could you imagine if they said, right, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Glasgow Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, whoever, salary cap. Let's really see things. It's like the argument about Formula One. Let's all have the same car and see who's the best driver.
Yeah.
Let's have a salary cap. And let's see who really is the best manager. Let's see if, back in the day when Mourinho walked into Chelsea and had all these star-studded players, Man City, all these star-studded players, Pep walked in. Don't get me wrong, he's a very good coach. I'm never going to not deny that. But let's have a salary cap and let's see how even the playing field goes then. Because I can tell you what, a lot of players, you'd watch them all up. Then you'd see, like, I'm going to Saudi Arabia. That loyalty would go. Every single one of them, because they're all. Let's be honest. No football player needs to play for the money, really. If you're in the Premier League, the Championship, the Scottish Premier League, you don't need to play for money. You're not doing it for the money. All this talk of, isn't it so glad we got Mo Salah? He doesn't need. He could play for the rest of his life for free and still be a multi-millionaire. So if you really want to make football fair, learn from the NFL and have a salary cap, and then see how fair football becomes. Because then slowly, over the course of 5 to 10 years, you watch that gap go from the Premier League to the Scottish Premier League, and you watch it level off. And then at one point, you'll be like, hang on a minute, Celtic are in the semi-finals of the Champions League, or Glasgow Rangers are in the semi-finals, or Aberdeen have made it into the Champions League. Yeah, because we've made football fair. They're always on they talk on Talk Sport all the time, and I listen to that a lot, and they're always like, there's a big divide between England and Scotland, and it's always talk of the Scottish teams coming down to the Premier League. Okay, make it fair then. You know what I mean? Yeah. You've always got to look at the TV money that Scotland gets compared to what we get down here in the Premier League. It's night and day. It's Prince and Pauper. Yeah, so if you really, and this will never ever happen because of the TV endorsements and the sponsorship and the unfortunately now the Premier League, and this is where they could learn off the NFL. It's about the rich getting richer. That's all it is. It's about money. If the rich can get richer, then it's.
When do we turn to politics?
Yeah, it's yeah, but it's all about that.
Yeah.
It's all about, and
I mean it's
the way that it's the way that football's going.
Yeah, it's parity, Dennis. The NFL would love for the 32 clubs to all finish 8-1 at the end of the season. That's what the ultimate goal is. That every club finishes 8-1. They don't want a dominance. Whereas
that's why they've got a draft. That's why they've got a draft.
That's it. Soccer
that's why you get the best pick. That's why you get the best pick of the look at Washington are only good now because we've got an all-star quarterback. But the only reason we could get him was because we were shit the year before.
Yeah.
That's the only reason we got him. But football would never do that. Ever. It will never, ever happen because it's so. And again, we come back to what we said at the start with Daniel Levy. Football's a business now. We get it. We're all still football fans, but football as we know it from when we were all. Well, maybe you guys, Cam, you were around in the war, but when I was a kid, it was football was football. And now it's not.
But listen, it's always been.
And by the way, there's no bigger business than the NFL.
No, not in the. I have this argument with everyone in the entire world. It blows football out the water. It blows golf out the water. It blows NFL blows everything out the water money wise for me.
Yeah, so in terms of business,
invest definitely will be good. Because we definitely need. That kind of input.
It's why Inter Miami are in the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
It's all money.
Because the investment.
It's the investment. They've got the luxury. You get David Beckham owning the team, and you have Messi. It's simple. You've got Beckham and Messi in the same franchise. You put them in the Club World Cup. Simple.
Yeah. Have you seen the Walkers advert where Messi comes in with Suarez?
No.
It's a Walkers. They go into the pub. I had to laugh, and it probably is a slant the way I feel about it. The two of them arrive at this pub, and it's Walker's Crisps, I think, and it shows you their names underneath it. And then they switch, and they see two females that are going to go to the pub, and it says their names. But whenever Suarez and Messi go in the pub, people are in awe, and you can see them going, "Wow, look who's just come in!" The two females come in. And they're obviously footballers, right? And I could see the vacant look and people going, "Who are they?" But to make things equal, they've brought the two females into this. Why? I don't know. Why can we not go back to the days of Paul Gascoigne and Lineker with the tears streaming down his face and make things a wee bit more funny rather than trying to play the sex game where two lady females footballers are in with two men? I just can't get it now. I don't think that sells, Chris. Anyway,
that's it. Or England hitting the post in final. Anyway, never mind. We're not bothered with that one, Burrows.
Well, just to let you know, just to let you know,
go, Dennis. Sorry.
Partick Thistle are winning 1-0 against Ayr.
So it's all square.
Yeah, and there's
all square on aggregate.
29 minutes played, I think.
Cool.
So,
I'm going to go and watch that. Get the legs up because my knee's just about had enough.
Right.
So,
is it improving any, Cammy?
It's getting there. I get my staples out today, so you probably heard me crying down there, Burrows. You know what I mean? That you probably heard me greeting down there because the tears were streaming. I'll tell you, 35 staples, mate.
I'm glad you're on them, then, mate. I'd knee pot you down. Yeah, I get knee pot.
Pleasant, that's for sure.
Yeah, ain't pleasant. As long as you're going to be fit and healthy come November when you come to Spain, mate.
Come November, I'll be fit. I'll be fit for September as well, mate. But I'll miss you at that one, obviously. But I'll catch up with you in November in Madrid.
I'm doing October with the family, and then November we'll be going out to watch the Commanders play in Spain.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I bought the flight tickets today anyway, so we'll see what happens with that one. Anyway. Andy, tell us all about you. We know you've got another couple of projects before we finish up. Obviously, I made mention to it at the start, but go on, tell us what have you got going on. When have you got any spare time for starters?
Jeez. So the Bunker, obviously the NFL season's kind of now rolling into training camp. So the Bunker podcast, I talk all things Washington football. And then I've got my little Completed It podcast. If you just go onto YouTube and type in Completed It podcast, it's all, we do movie reviews. We do talk about movies, TVs, Marvel, DC, all that kind of stuff. It's really, that's gone mental. That has only, I've sat down with the likes of Tom Arnold, and I've sat down with some like Hollywood greats over the last 3 months that we've been doing that, really. So I'm really enjoying doing that. I just sit down. It's me and a good friend, a good school buddy of mine. And then it's either me and him talking about movies and stuff, or we have guests like Tom Arnold on. And we had the woman, I don't know if you remember when you were kids, that voiced April O'Neil in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We had her on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, she's about the same age as me.
Just to sit down and chat to her. And I don't know if she was that young, Dennis. She was, so I love it.
It was a mutant, but
yeah, it's
that old you were meant to say.
Completed It podcast on YouTube, and then still doing Talk of the Town for Dunstable. Obviously, the season's finished now. We had a new management team and everything take over last year, but they did a great job. So I'm still doing my Talk of the Town stuff as well. So yeah, keeping, you know me, Cammy, I'm always doing something. But anytime you guys want me to come on and talk football, mate, the answer will always be yes.
Great,
cool, mate. Thoroughly enjoy it, mate, as always. I think Dennis gets fed up with the NFL chat, but not thoroughly enjoy it. It's
great, Dennis. You need to get into it, mate. Greatest game in the world.
I'm too ignorant to understand it, so I do believe it would be brilliant to know the ins and outs, but I've not got time.
Easiest game in the world to understand.
Yeah.
Well,
easiest game in the world.
That's
it really is. It's the
move forward
simplicity.
15 yards. Done.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, I've got a wee feel for it, but not to sit down and digest it at night.
I'll take you to Madrid, Dennis.
Sorry?
I'll take you to Madrid.
Oh my God, you'll have a great weekend. Yeah, just come out there.
Oh, mate.
I'd never get out of the pub. Never mind your football.
We're going to go to the Bernabeu, but I can tell you where we'll be the rest of the time.
Yeah, I've been there.
I so have. Yeah, smashing. But anyway, Andy, thanks as always, mate. I really, really appreciate you coming on. It's great to listen to somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to English football, rather than Dennis and I sort of trying to sort of kid on our way through, you know. So I always appreciate it, mate. Always a pleasure. Anytime we get a chance to catch up, we'll get a pint eventually at some point in time, whether it's November or not.
It's going to happen this year, mate.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen this year,
cool,
mate.
Mate. Thanks as always, mate. And Dennis, as always, thanks very much. You have been listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch. Remember, guys, a couple of weeks left of the season where everything is still happening on the pitch. Good night.